December 31st, 1985. A DC-3 aircraft crashes in flames in a Texas cow pasture. 7 people dead. The pilot radioed smoke in the cockpit 6 minutes before impact. Who was on that plane? And why did newspapers blame drugs when the NTSB found none? What if I told you the man who died was the first artist ever to hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100? What if I told you he grew up on television from age 8 to 26 across 435 episodes? And what if I told you he outsold Elvis Presley during the King's Army service? Some say it was talent, others say it was timing. But what if it was something else entirely? His name was Ricky Nelson. He became America's first television-raised teen idol. The chart records were real. The NTSB report exists. The drug rumors were false. But before the burning plane, before the drug rumors, before the first #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, there was an 8-year-old boy about to become the first child in history to grow up on television. #1, first child to literally grow up on television. February 20th, 1949. 8-year-old Ricky Nelson made his debut on his parents' radio show, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, replacing the professional child actor who had played him for 5 years when the show moved to television. October 3rd, 1952. Cameras captured something unprecedented, a child aging in real time before 20 million American viewers for 14 consecutive seasons and 435 episodes, the longest-running live-action sitcom in American TV history until 2021. Audiences watched Ricky grow from a gap-toothed 12-year-old to a married 26-year-old father. No child in entertainment history had been documented so completely. The expression teen idol was literally invented to describe him when Life magazine coined the term in December 1958. By age 13, Ricky was earning over $100,000 per year. By 16, he had accumulated a personal fortune of $500,000, equivalent to $5.78 million. In 2024, yet his controlling father, Ozzie, gave him only a $50 monthly allowance. At age 18, Ricky once collected and redeemed empty soda bottles just to afford movie tickets for himself and a date. He never wrote a check. Until his 40s, every purchase was handled by business managers. Red Skelton's producer, John Guidel, described young Ricky as an odd little kid, likable, shy, introspective, mysterious, and inscrutable. Behind the wholesome facade, Ricky suffered from severe asthma and deep insecurity. His wife, Kristen, later said, "He never knew who he really was. The boy who grew up in America's living rooms had no idea who he was off camera." But at 16, he was about to accidentally launch one of rock and roll's most successful careers, to impress a girl. #2 recorded his first hit to impress a girlfriend. 16 years old, Ricky was desperate to impress his 2-year girlfriend, Diana Osborne, a devoted Elvis Presley fan. According to documented accounts, he boldly told her he was going to make a record, despite having no recording contract or professional singing experience. March 26, 1957, with his father's help, securing a 1-record deal with Verve Records, Ricky recorded a cover of Fats Domino's I'm Walkin' with legendary session musicians, including drummer Earl Palmer and guitarist Merle Travis. The song debuted on The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, April 10, 1957, in an episode titled Ricky the Drummer. Within weeks, I'm Walkin' hit #4 on Billboard, while its B-side, A Teenager's Romance, reached #2 the day after the TV performance. Ricky played a lunch hour assembly at Hamilton High School in Los Angeles. Girls screamed for 5 straight minutes without stopping. Arranger Jimmy Haskell recalled, "I could tell he was frightened. He didn't know what to do next. He wanted them to stop screaming so he could start singing." Ricky had accidentally launched one of rock and roll's most successful careers to impress a girl. Within weeks, a fence had to be erected around the Nelson family home to hold back adoring teenage girls. But what came next was something no artist can ever replicate. The very first #1 on a brand new chart. #3, first ever #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, August 4th, 1958. Ricky Nelson achieved something no artist can ever replicate. Poor Little Fool became the first song ever to top the newly created Billboard Hot 100 chart. The unified chart replaced Billboard's multiple previous ranking systems, and Ricky's aching ballad held the inaugural #1 position. For 2 weeks, the song sold over 2 million copies and established Nelson as the only artist who could genuinely compete with Elvis for chart dominance. Between 1957 and 1973, Ricky placed 53 songs on the Billboard Hot 100, including 19 top 10 hits and 35 top 40 hits. His 1957 debut album, Ricky, hit #1 on the Billboard album chart. The numbers reveal his remarkable consistency. Nelson had 11 double-sided hit singles, where both the A-side and B-side charted separately, second only to Elvis Presley's 25. His combined sales of Travelin' Man and Hello Mary Lou, released as a double A-side in 1961, exceeded 5 million copies. Paul McCartney later explained Ricky's unique appeal. Over in England, we knew nothing about the Nelson Show. To us, he was the famous one in the family. Rock critic Marshall Crenshaw noted, he and his band were on TV every week, waving their Fender guitars in your face. That alone influenced a lot of people. But during Elvis Presley's military service, something impossible happened. The clean-cut TV kid started outselling the king of rock and roll. #4, Outsold Elvis when the king joined the army, 1958 to 1959. Elvis Presley's military service. While Elvis had limited recording opportunities, only the King Creole sessions in early 1958, and 5 songs during military leave. Nelson released hit after hit. The documented statistics are striking. Ricky had 12 chart hits during 1958 to 1959 versus Elvis's 11 hits. For that brief window, the clean-cut TV kid from Ozzie and Harriet was outselling the king of rock and roll. Elvis, however, harbored no resentment. In late October 1957, following Elvis's show at Hollywood's Pan Pacific Auditorium, the two finally met. Elvis hugged Ricky and told him he was a big fan of both the TV show and Bebop Baby. Elvis later told his guitarist James Burton he never missed an episode of Ozzie and Harriet. The respect was mutual. Ricky used the Jordanaires, Elvis's signature backup singers, on his own recordings. Elvis agreed, asking only that they not be credited on the record labels. Ricky covered several Elvis Sun record songs, including Good Rockin' Tonight and Mystery Train. John Fogerty of Creedence Clearwater Revival eulogized he was Hollywood, but the records he made were totally legitimate rockabilly, as good as any of the best stuff from Sun Records. Despite being one of rock and roll's biggest stars, Ricky would never appear on the 2 most important shows of the entire era because his father wouldn't allow it. #5, father forbade Ed Sullivan and American Bandstand. Despite being one of rock and roll's biggest stars, Ricky Nelson never appeared on American Bandstand or The Ed Sullivan Show during his commercial peak, making him and Elvis the only 2 major rock artists of the era to miss Dick Clark's legendary program. The reason was control. Father Ozzie Nelson forbade Ricky from appearing on any other national television show as a performer. During Ozzie and Harriet's run, Ozzie wanted fans to tune into ABC to see Ricky sing. Every Nelson musical performance was an exclusive event, available only on their family program. When Ed Sullivan finally convinced Ozzie to allow an appearance, January 23, 1966, Sullivan told viewers he had received thousands and thousands of letters from youngsters asking for Ricky Nelson on the show, but by then, the British invasion had swept Ricky off the charts, and the appearance couldn't reverse his decline. The control went far beyond television. Ozzie negotiated all of Ricky's recording contracts and had approval over song selection, sleeve artwork covers, and production values. He masterminded showcasing Ricky's songs at the end of TV episodes to drive record sales. When the Beatles emerged, Ozzie urged Ricky to turn his back on rock and roll, believing the genre would die out. But the clean-cut teen idol America saw on television wasn't the real Ricky Nelson. The real Ricky was something else entirely. Number 6, secret greaser, gang member who punched a cop. The real Ricky Nelson bore little resemblance to his wholesome TV persona. During his teenage years, Ricky joined the Rooks, a Los Angeles greaser car club. He slicked his hair with oil, tattooed his hands, wrist, and shoulder with India ink, and accompanied gang members on what biographers describe as nocturnal forays along Hollywood Boulevard, randomly harassing and beating up passers-by. Ricky was jailed twice in connection with Rooks incidents. In the most serious documented case, he sucker-punched a police officer and escaped punishment only through his father's intervention and influence on his TV show. Young Ricky would ad-lib and chew the scenery like a miniature Jerry Lewis to get spontaneous laughs from the studio audience. His father Ozzie hated it, once snapping at him, "Son, there is no such thing." As a child comedian, despite projecting the image of an obedient, polite boy next door, Ricky told the Los Angeles Weekly, 25 years after high school, that he hated school because it smelled of pencils and resented being forced to wake early. The split between image and reality haunted him. On May 8th, 1961, his 21st birthday, Ricky officially changed his professional name to Rick, hoping to establish an adult identity. But as he lamented in Garden Party, "They all knew my name, but no one heard the music. I didn't look the same." And in 1971, that identity crisis would reach its breaking point at Madison Square Garden. Number 7, booed at Madison Square Garden, turned it into his biggest hit. October 15th, 1971, evening, 31-year-old Rick Nelson took the stage at New York's Felt Forum, Madison Square Garden's 5,600-seat venue, as part of Richard Nader's Rock and Roll Spectacular 7. What happened next devastated him and ultimately defined his legacy. Rick walked on stage, dressed in bell-bottom jeans, a $2,000 purple velvet shirt, and cowboy boots, his hair hanging down to his shoulders. The nostalgia-hungry crowd of aging rock fans who had come to relive the 1950s was aghast. Rick later told Rolling Stone, "They kept looking at me and my long hair as if they couldn't believe I was the same person." His set began well, with oldies like "Hello Mary Lou" and "Travelin' Man." Then Rick transitioned to his current material, a Bob Dylan cover, and the Rolling Stones' Country Honk. A tsunami of boos erupted. Rick finished his set, didn't return for the finale, and left the building. Devastated, concert promoter Richard Nader explained, "The people that were in Madison Square Garden were not there to hear contemporary music. They were there to escape it." Rick channeled his humiliation into Garden Party, an autobiographical song written late one night at his piano. Released in July 1972, it reached number 6 on Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on Adult Contemporary, earning gold certification. By November, its defiant chorus became his artistic manifesto. "You can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself." Bob Dylan, asked to name his favorite song that mentions his name in the lyrics, chose Garden Party. Rick considered it his greatest achievement. "It renewed my opinion of myself and what I should be doing." But his personal life was about to collapse, and it started with a shotgun wedding to a football legend's daughter. Number 8, shotgun wedding to football legend's pregnant daughter. April 20th, 1963. Life magazine declared it the wedding of the year. 22-year-old Ricky Nelson married Sharon Kristen Harmon at St. Martin of Tours Catholic Church in Brentwood, Los Angeles. What the magazine didn't report, and most fans never learned, was that 17-year-old Kristen was already pregnant. Kristen was the daughter of Tom Harmon, the 1940 Heisman Trophy winner, Los Angeles Rams running back, and beloved sportscaster. Her brother Mark Harmon would later star in NCIS. The families had been friends for years, and as one account noted, a union between their children held great appeal. Rick and Kristen met on Christmas Day, 1961. When she was 16, less than 2 years later, they walked down the aisle in what Rick later described as a shotgun wedding. Their daughter Tracy was born October 25th, 1963, exactly 6 months after the wedding, weighing only 4 pounds 1 ounce. The marriage lasted 19 years, but descended into mutual accusations of drug abuse, infidelity, and parental neglect during their bitter 1980 to 1982 divorce. Kristen's attorney publicly accused Rick of having a severe drug problem, encouraged by his managers, his entourage, and his groupies. The divorce cost Rick over $1 million in legal fees, leaving him overdrawn at all his banks and forced to borrow $50,000 from his mother Harriet just to survive. Kristen later admitted, "We were hippie rock and rollers. We did what everyone else was doing all those years." Despite earning $500,000 by age 16 and placing 53 songs on the Billboard Hot 100, Rick Nelson was broke and deeply in debt. Number 9, died $4 million in debt. Sons paid it off, then hit number 1. Despite earning $500,000 by age 16 and placing 53 songs on the Billboard Hot 100, Ricky Nelson died approximately $4 million in debt on December 31st, 1985. The disconnect between his success and financial ruin was a direct consequence of never controlling his own money. Ozzie Nelson had channeled all of Ricky's childhood earnings into trust funds that Ozzie controlled. Ricky never learned basic financial skills when new manager Greg McDonald examined his finances in 1976. He discovered that Rick's Stone Canyon band career had actually lost money over the years, despite respectable album sales and touring. McDonald recalled, Rick was nearly broke. The devastating 1982 divorce from Kristen consumed over $1 million in legal costs. By his death, Rick was juggling creditors and had fallen behind on his son's private school tuition. He refused to declare bankruptcy out of what friends called pride or honor. His twin sons, Matthew and Gunnar Nelson, inherited the debt. Along with their father's legacy, they spent 10 years paying off his creditors, then achieved something remarkable. In 1990, their band Nelson released Can't Live Without Your Love and Affection, which reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. This made the Nelsons the first family to achieve number 1 hit status across 3 successive generations. Ozzie Nelson's orchestra in 1935, Rick's Poor Little Fool in 1958, and Travelin' Man in 1961, and the Twins in 1990, a Guinness World Record. That still stands, Gunnar Nelson reflected. He turned what could have remained the darkest day of his life into his brightest shining moment. But on New Year's Eve, 1985, the darkest day was still to come, and newspapers would blame drugs when there were none. Number 10, New Year's Eve, plane crash, drug rumors debunked. 5:14 p.m. Central Standard Time, December 31st, 1985. A 41-year-old Douglas DC-3 carrying Rick Nelson, his fiancée Helen Blair, 4 band members, and a road manager crashed in flames in a cow pasture near DeKalb, Texas, less than 2 miles from an airstrip, and just hours before a New Year's Eve concert. In Dallas, the aircraft, tail number N711Y, previously owned by Jerry Lee Lewis, had experienced repeated mechanical problems. That morning, departure was delayed 4 hours due to fuel primer issues. During the flight from Guntersville, Alabama, the gasoline-powered cabin heater malfunctioned repeatedly. At 5:08 p.m., pilot Brad Rank radioed Fort Worth Air Traffic Control. "I think I'd like to turn around. I've got a little problem." 3 minutes later, smoke in the cockpit. Eyewitness L.B. Barrett described the final moments when we first saw that thing. The smoke was the whole length of the plane. It was just boiling back out. The DC-3 clipped utility wires, struck a stand of sweet gum trees, and exploded. 7 people died, all from smoke inhalation and thermal burns. Only the 2 pilots, who escaped through cockpit windows, survived. Within weeks, a media firestorm erupted. The Washington Post ran a front-page headline, "Drug-related fire suspected in Rick Nelson plane crash." Speculation centered on freebasing cocaine Igniting the drug with a flame, 18 aerosol cans found in the wreckage fueled the theory. The NTSB conducted an 18-month investigation. Their May 1987 final report explicitly debunked the drug allegations. No evidence of drug use during the flight, and no drug-related paraphernalia found after the crash, while toxicology detected trace amounts of cocaine in Rick's system, along with marijuana and the painkiller Darvon. The fire originated at floor level in the aft cabin, exactly where the defective heater was located, not where passengers would have been freebasing. The official cause was listed as undetermined, but the NTSB concluded the fire was most likely caused by the malfunctioning, gasoline-powered cabin heater. Rick Nelson, age 45, was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on January 21st, 1987, introduced by John Fogerty, just 13 months after his death. Dan Rather eventually interrupted a broadcast to say he would no longer fan the flames of the drug rumors. The family's 2025 memoir revealed how the false narrative began. A reporter at the crash site asked an NTSB investigator if they would check for freebasing. The investigator replied, "We check for everything." The reporter ran with a story, claiming cocaine freebasing was being investigated as the cause. First child to grow up on television, age 8 to 26, 435 episodes. First ever #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, Outsold Elvis during the King's Army service, secret greaser gang member who punched a cop, forbidden from Ed Sullivan. An American Bandstand, booed at Madison Square Garden, turned humiliation into a #6 hit. Shotgun Wedding to a pregnant 17-year-old, died $4 million in debt. Sons paid it off, then hit #1 themselves, killed in a burning plane. On New Year's Eve, newspapers blamed drugs. The NTSB found none. Ricky Nelson's story proves something nobody wants to admit. You can be America's first teen idol, the first #1 on the most important chart in music history, and still die broke in a burning plane while false rumors destroy your name. The boy who grew up in 20 million living rooms never knew who he really was until Garden Party gave him permission to please himself, and by then, it was almost too late. If Ricky Nelson's journey from America's living room to a burning plane on New Year's Eve moved you, you're going to want to see next week's video. We're covering another music legend who lived an impossible life your generation remembers, but never knew the truth behind. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. And if you've got your own memories of watching Ozzie and Harriet or hearing Poor Little Fool for the first time, share them in the comments. I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.